We are a religious community, united by our UU principles and committed to service, spiritual growth, and caring fellowship. If you're a visitor today, we especially welcome you and hope you'll fill out a visitor card by the front door. You can learn more about us on our website or hear past services on our YouTube channel. We call ourselves a fellowship because relationships and shared experience are of utmost importance to us. We are free here to explore our own beliefs, to learn from others as they learn from us. You will not be given answers here, but will find ears ready to listen and hearts ready to share. We bring our talents, our joys and sorrows, our quirks, and we mix them into the pot, just as we combined this morning all these lovely flowers that you have brought into our communal vases. When we leave each Sunday, we take with us new ideas, new friends, and today, a new flower as a symbol of that sharing. We look forward to conversations and refreshments after the service, followed by second-hour discussion groups or choir practice, whichever you prefer, which are listed in your order of service. Announcements are also in your order of service, along with descriptions of upcoming services. We have a couple of other announcements. These envelopes are in most of the seats with the hymnals. They are for non-share the plate cash, the note says, so if you're paying your pledge, this is a place you can put it. We also have an announcement from Cecile about the Crestview Community Chorus, which she directs, which is presenting a program of international folk songs with singers in costumes. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, May 19, 20, and 21 at Crestview's Warriors Hall Auditorium. She has complimentary tickets, so you can go for free, and she can give you the address or any other information you need. Now the prelude prepares us for the service. Is going to come light our chalice. We light this chalice for mothers and mothering, to celebrate those who have taken on this task of nurturing a young one, baby, child, or youth, into adulthood. To celebrate those who have nourished the light of truth and compassion in growing minds and hearts. To celebrate those who have committed time, money, and energy to the growth of others in this world. We light this chalice to celebrate and hold dear this flame of love. Words by Claudia Oliva. We come together this morning to celebrate Mother's Day, but let's take a moment to define exactly what that is. Mothering is when a caring adult helps a child grow to adulthood. It's most often done by women, but it can be done by men. Mothering and fathering can blend at times, and there are very few people who are perfect at mothering. It's also true that mothering is not limited to adults who have children in their own immediate family. Sometimes we're mothered by people to whom we are not even related. Mothers teach us by their words and by example. Sometimes we even learn what not to do by watching them. Whatever your circumstances, we all help to mother, and we all are mothered by others. Please stand as you are able for our hymn number 63 in the gray hymnal, or the words will be up front. Spring has now unwrapped the flowers. Will the kids all come up for the time for all ages? Well, we celebrate Mother's Day in a lot of different ways. Some people give their mother flowers. Anybody here going to do that today? Sometimes we cook for them. Going to do that. Or we take them out to dinner, or we give them presents. Maybe you made something at school. Lots of ways. But I'm going to tell you a secret. There is something that mothers love even more than all of that. And that is what you tell them, because that they can keep in their hearts forever. So this morning, we're going to share a few of the things that you really love about your mother. And I bet you'll think of a lot more later that you can tell her this afternoon or tomorrow or any other time. Oh, you've got an idea. So let me give you a topic first. Parents, for some reason, we love to hear how our kids look like us. Isn't that true? It's like Ned and I always had, somebody would say, oh, she looks like you. And we'd go, and then someone else would say, no, she looks like him. And he's like, so we like that. How do you look like your mom or act like your mom?
I just wanted to say I made an entire booklet at school about how I love my mom.
She's going to love that. So is there any way you look like your mom? Like, do you both have curly hair? Or do you both love to play soccer? Or
We both have curly hair. Blue eyes.
There are loads of things we like to do with our moms. Think of something that you love to do with her. Can you think of anything?
I like to jump on the trampoline.
Does she do that with you? Awesome. She's a good mom. Anybody else can be brave? No? Okay. There are a lot of things our mom does for us. Loads of things. What do you love to have your mom do for you?
Bring me to school.
They do a lot of driving.
Cook.
And a lot of cooking. That's always a favorite. Wow. Is there anything else that you want to say about your mom? I'll let you think later. But give me a minute. Come here, we have a secret. stay. Yeah, well, you can give her a hug first, sorry. But then come back. You can always give Mom a hug. Because you guys are going to help with the flower communion in just a minute once I explain what it is. Of the flower communion. We've celebrated this for a number of years in our fellowship, and many times we've gone through the whole history. Wonderful things they did promoting, linking it this time to Mother's Day. Some people who mother are given flowers on Mother's Day, but we know that all of us mother and need mothering at any age. Our flower communion reminds us that every life needs to grow its own roots and find its own place, just as every soul wants to find a spiritual home and blossom in its own way, rooted among companions and principles. Like our flowers, we are all different, yet we all have worth. We each have our own beauty. People say, bloom where you're planted. But like people, flowers don't do that for long. Like us, they travel. They send out seeds, they send out tendrils to find better light and richer soil. We come from the seeds of previous generations, but we adjust for conditions. Coming up to collect the vases, and they are going to pass them up and down all the aisles. As you get a vase, please select a flower different from the one that you brought. Note its particular beauty and shape. It's a gift someone else has brought you. It represents that person's unique humanity and therefore deserves your kindest touch. Share joyfully in this UU ritual of oneness and love. So come on up. Yes. Okay. After the service, you're welcome to come up and pick another one, so we don't want any to go to waste. You absolutely can. Go ahead and, girls, you want to pick one? And now we'll sing the children out as they go to their class. Invited to briefly share events in your life so we may celebrate together in joy and support each other in sorrows. Place a pebble in the water and speak briefly into the microphone if you choose. This is a sacred time. Requires your help. After every sentence I say, your response is, we ask a blessing on this day. Because not for everyone is Mother's Day. Not for everyone is Mother's Day. So many of us. We ask a blessing for all whose mothers never learned to play. We ask a blessing on this day. For all who missed the chance to say I love you, and all those who long to say it now but find ourselves afraid, we ask a blessing on this day. For all who carry ancient wounds, infertility, abuse, misunderstanding, anger, grief, we ask a blessing on this day. For all who struggle with regret, we ask a blessing on this day. And of course, For all those wonderful people out there who raised us or are attempting to raise others, we ask a blessing on this day. Please join in a moment of silent meditation or prayer. Partner, one. This morning we have 3 of our members who are going to share their experiences with mothers and mothering. We're going to start with Stacy Shank.
Hi, I'm Stacy. So I never wanted to be a mom, ever. Not in the cards for me. Like, kids were just, yeah. Um, I grew up with an abusive mom. She was bipolar and schizophrenic, and for some reason, I was her target child. She was a decent parent to my siblings, but she hated me with a passion. I was starved, beaten, sex trafficked, locked in a closet for 3 years, and that's just the stuff I can talk about. I was in and out of foster care my entire life. According to the Department of Social Services records, I was in a total of 132 different homes while growing up. Also dealt with sexual abuse, physical abuse, and a lot of other stuff during that time. So becoming a mom was not something I wanted to do. I was terrified about my chance of breaking the cycle and my environment. We grew they they wanted us gone. Uh, so I had to fight. I did dual enrollment. I also knew there was no chance in hell I was going to be able to afford that. So I high school diploma. I then luckily got a scholarship, full ride scholarship, in order to be able to get my bachelor's degree. Doubled up on all my classes, yada yada. Anyways, um, I just knew I had to get out, and I spent the next constantly. And my doctor refused. And my doctor refused to do any more. I was constantly in there. Those Dollar Tree pregnancy tests were being taken like crazy. Backpedal just a little bit. When I was 14, I had cancer. So at 6 months. So how did I end up becoming the mom I am today? I mean, mine sucked, really. I finally realized that when I had absolutely no clue on how to handle something or what to do, I'd ask myself what Jessie would do. You know, the horrible, awful egg donor that will never be called mom by me again. And then I did the exact opposite. So while battling severe chronic PTSD, chronic depression, and anxiety, I was pretty sure my kids were screwed. Shortcomings. And they don't make excuses for it. They know I did not always do my best. I won't lie to them and say I tried to. I have absolutely no relationship with my biological family except for a once-a-year phone call with my father that I met at 23. An occasion cutting my toxic biological family out completely ever hoped for. And then I met Adam. And meeting Adam and him adopting the kids was pretty amazing. Him and I still had no idea what we were doing either, but we figured it out together. We were never bad parents. Most of the people who knew us and the kids raved about our parenting. But we always knew we had room to grow. And we had discussed foster adopting at one point, and the classes they make you take helped us make changes that really helped us and the kids to become even better. Lots of changes got made there. We stopped grounding the kids. Every day was a new start. If they messed up, that's okay. We weren't going to hold it against them. And God, that's hard. You ever had your kid just act like a jerk, and then the next day you have to be like, oh, it's a new day. Okay, let's start over. That's hard. Yeah, yeah. The older two push it the hardest. Now we have the new challenge of learning to parent adult children. They're 25, almost 24, and 18. And personally, I think this is the hardest part yet. But as each new challenge rears its ugly head, we're meeting it together. And when we struggle or question how to do something, we now ask ourselves what his parents, his dad and stepmom, would do. And we follow their incredible example. They have taught us to accept and cherish each of our children's uniqueness, even when we question their choices. We've been shown by mom and dad how to love them through it. We're not afraid to advocate for our kids, ourselves, or our lifestyles. I'm a loud and proud social justice warrior, and they support that completely, which is amazing. Mom is a social justice warrior too, and she's very loud and proud about it, so that helps. My in-laws are the parents that we strive to be. Each day, I think we get closer and closer to being a little more like them. And if we can manage to be even half the parents they are, then we've gotten it right in the end. I guess all of this is to say that it doesn't really matter where you come from. You get to choose to cut toxic people out of your life, if you need to, no matter the role they've played. Parents, friends, siblings, doesn't matter. If they're toxic to you, cut them out. It's okay. You get to choose the type of parent that you want to be. I was supposed to fail. I was set up for failure. But I'm stubborn, and it wasn't going to happen. You get to choose to own up to your mistakes, to break generational curses, to become the parent you wish you had. I didn't grow up with examples of how to be a good parent, but I learned through time how to use those lessons to become the parent I wanted to be, the parent my children needed me to be. And now I can't imagine our life without kids. But please no more. I'm hoping none of them have grandbabies anytime soon, which we need a break. We need a break. But yeah, I think my in-laws, in the way that they raised Adam and his 5 siblings, 4 other siblings. Yeah. You have 4. Anyways, how they raised them, I had set a really beautiful example. And they give us strength every single day to still be the parents that we need to be. So there's hope, even if your own mom sucks.
I was far less prepared because that makes me even more nervous to speak in public. One of the things I watched my mom, I don't really remember a lot before my brother was born. Remembered a lot of reading books, loved books, so she taught me young to love books and to love to read. And while I was very shy, I did not just talk in class later, but I could actually read, but yet I was in the lowest reading level, and that was like very traumatic. But when my brother was born, he had a lot of seizures. He was hydrocephalic. He was in the hospital a lot. He had a lot of problems, and what I saw her do was fight for him. They used to have like the old kind of shunt for babies, and then they had the adult shunt, and it's very complicated, but he ended up being the first infant that I think that had an adult shunt. But it was her fighting. It was her constant fighting. It was the fighting at the pediatrician when he had ended up having pneumonia, and they said, "It's okay, Mrs. Doyle. Some babies get sick even if they have other problems. It's just a cold." That wasn't it. So there was always fighting. It was always advocating. So then when my own oldest came 7 weeks early and was born in the car, as some of you know, right before Christmas, and he ended up having a lot of abdominal problems, a lot of issues, and there was more fighting. There was advocacy. There was constant pushing. There was more tests, and you hate nothing worse than laying on your child in a CAT scan machine, I think, but trying to make sure that everything was going to be okay, and more surgeries and more tests and all that. But there was constant the battle. And then my second was born, and he was allergic to protein. Who knew? More fighting, more fights on phones with the insurance companies, and I was very, very grateful that my company actually funded our insurance, so they could have the ultimate decision, and it wasn't just some other person out that didn't know who we were. So that was like the biggest thing, I think, always fighting for my kids. And then the next 2 got a little bit easier, and then it's kind of like, what do I do now? but I go back to the affection and trying to the things that I want my kids to take from reading to education, and how important it was, and the sacrifices I made to go to grad school, because lifelong learning is important to me, and I want it to be important to them. So I might have missed some things, but other things I sat there with my laptop on the breaks. I sat there getting the work done and still spending time with them and still being there for the things that they needed and the things that they, the way you support your kids, right? You go to all the soccer games, you go to the robotics tournaments, you go to the taekwondo, you do all the things. I remember when my third was little, he wasn't super into affection. He would lean, and then he was done with us. And that's changed. He's gotten better. But I think these days with my youngest, who's now 5'7", my favorite time with him is to cuddle on the couch and watch whatever it is. That I might start watching something that I think he won't care about, so I'll try to watch that when he's not around. And then he's like, well, you watched it without me. Like, but you didn't say you liked it. Well, what happened with this? And now, so we go back and we watch Ghosts, and now he's watching Librarians with me. Haven't really gotten him into Star Trek, but he does like some other things, and I've gotten in an unexpected fondness for some anime. So even the one that's about Vikings in Japanese, and Vinland Saga, it's pretty good. Check it out. So, but I tell people, like, I'll watch whatever my 13-year-old wants to watch if he's going to sit on the couch under the blankets with me. So, but that's something that it's like the emotional. It's not just getting good grades. It's not just what you're doing against the outside world. It's the bonds and the affection that you're trying to instill within them, so they have that going forward. So that's it.
Hello, I'm Erica. I'm the newest parent that's been invited to speak today. Evie's only first 2 years of a baby's life. I would think we lost more. Organization of priorities, leaving many of your hobbies, leisure time, and activities by the wayside in favor of the incessant and immediate needs of a helpless infant. For sure, there's also sacrifices of the body. Pregnancy, birth, and breastfeeding, which is pretty metal. Nonetheless, it isn't the self-sacrifice that's been the primary lesson I've learned so far as a new parent. It's been self-discovery. When Evie was only a few months old, I read an essay from the book I'll Show Myself Out by Jessie Klein. She noted that heroism has been seen in our culture as an archetypal journey out into the world, following a quest, defeating an enemy, and returning triumphant. Then she wrote this about motherhood. The truth is that motherhood is a hero's journey. For most of us, it's not a journey outward to the most fantastic and farthest flung places, but inward, downward, to the deepest parts of your strength, to the innermost buried core of everything you are made of but didn't know was there. That resonated. As my 2-month-old started in on her second hour of crying in the middle of the night, or my 8-month-old woke after 1.5 hours of sleep for the 4th time that night, or my 13-month-old continually tried to eat crayons while I repeated over and over, crayons are for paper. No, crayons are for paper. I discovered untapped, unknown wells of empathy and patience and love. I fought internal emotional battles between, on one side, the forces of exhaustion, self-doubt, grief over the loss of previous freedoms, and a frustration that threatened to flare into searing anger. And on the other side, those inner resources of compassion and care. My pre-parenthood self would have found it impossible to believe how often the forces of love won. I think this journey applies not only to mothers, but to all parents, fathers, and caregivers responsible for the round-the-clock needs of a child who is as yet incapable of self-regulation or understanding that persons beside themselves have needs too. I know that Alex and I feared the impact a baby would have on our marriage, and I know that we both discovered those untapped wells of love and grace to offer not only to Evie, but to each other as well. And now, as my daughter passes from a baby to a toddler, and will grow on to a child, teenager, and adult, we face the challenge now of keeping her fundamentally safe while still nurturing exploration and self-reliance, walking that tightrope. She will grow into herself, make her own mistakes, form her own opinions. We cannot own or control her. She is a full member of humanity, with that spark of the divine glowing within her, entirely unique and entirely universal. Recognizing that spirit, that imago Dei within her, for me, has helped me recognize it also within myself, my family, my community, my world, extending empathy and grace outward and outward and outward. Of course, all parents make mistakes. Alex, me, Alex's parents, my parents. We make mistakes with Evie, we make mistakes with each other, we make mistakes with ourselves. We will make many more. But I know that Evie knows that we love her. Alex's mother loved him and his brother and sister. My mother loved my older brothers and me. Beyond anything else, we feel that. I know that when I was a small screaming potato baby, that she went through that same emotional hero's journey I did. As much as parenthood is a deeply personal, internal experience, it is also a shared one. It takes a village to raise a child, right? Villagers co-parent in two ways. First, children are sponges. They learn from everything and everyone around them. And second, there are times parents need extra hands, extra eyes, and extra hearts to help when there's falter. I know that my brothers and I had different experiences of our childhood and our mother, because she was our mother through different hardships of her own and surrounded by different villagers. It makes a difference. I feared when we moved here a year ago, far from our family and our previous friends, that we would, like so many of our generation, have to just hire our village. To a degree we do. I mean, we don't have a grandmother to babysit, we don't have aunts, so we have to shell out for that. And this isn't a plea for babysitters. But having a place we can go even once a week where we can relax and know that Evie is watched over and appreciated for her own delightful self, having that supportive village makes a difference. It helps me appreciate the end of the hero's journey, the impossible delight of watching Evie grow and discover her own self, of sending her into the future to find journeys of her own.
Wow. Very good. Please join in singing our last hymn, For Flowers That Bloom About Our Feet. It's number 76 in the Old Grade hymnal. representatives of creation's profound beauty, diverse and unique, but related and interdependent. These flowers which come to us as gifts from we know not where, and which we, in turn, choose to bring to our shared and common altar as gifts to one another. In their presence we turn our thoughts to the mystery, the most sacred, which we never understand fully, but which we are granted revelatory glimpses of. In each of these flowers, in each of your faces, and through relationships with neighbors near and far, may they remind us of grace we have known in days past, forgiveness we have been granted and provided, love unearned and shared, recovery begun and established, generosity unforeseen and most sacred. And may they inspire us now and in days to come to seek, to notice, to embrace, and to recreate beauty, to give unto the world as exuberantly as these flowers. By Reverend William Sinkford. Please stay seated for the postlude. Thank you all for your participation, for bringing flowers, our wonderful speakers. Please join us for conversation and second hour activities. Thank you for coming.